So, today we're going to dive into one of the most incredible political stories happening right now. The story of Muhammad Yunus. You probably know him as the banker to the poor, right? Well, he's gone from that to being the main architect of what people are calling Bangladesh's Second Republic. Let's get into how this possibly happened.
I mean, really, think about it. How on earth does a man famous for giving out tiny loans find himself leading a country of 170 million people, especially right after a revolution? The answer isn't simple. It's a story that's been 50 years in the making, full of economics, conflict, and an unwavering vision for a totally different kind of world.
Okay, so everything just blows up in the summer of 2024. It starts with some student protests over job quotas, but that quickly spirals into a massive nationwide uprising. By August 5th, the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who'd been in power for 15 years, she's gone, fled the country. And then, just 3 days later, Muhammad Yunus is taking the oath, tasked with leading a new government and basically rebuilding the nation.
But to really get how he ended up here, we've got to hit rewind, go way back. Because long before he was a political figure, he was just an economist, a professor living a pretty comfortable academic life. And then something happened that changed everything for him.
That big turning point was the horrific famine of 1974. Picture this. He's a professor at a university teaching these complex, elegant economic theories. And right outside his classroom, people are literally starving to death. He had this profound realization that all the books and theories he was teaching were completely meaningless to the people suffering just down the road. It was a crisis for him, one that pushed him out of the university and into the villages.
And what he did next wasn't just some act of charity. No, it was a totally radical economic experiment, one that would eventually win him a Nobel Prize. And believe it or not, it all started with a surprisingly tiny amount of money.
Yep, $27. That's it. He came across a group of 42 women in a village who were making bamboo stools, but they were completely trapped by predatory loan sharks, earning just 2 cents a day for their work. So Yunus, out of his own pocket, lent them $27. And that one simple personal loan, well, that was the seed that grew into a global movement.
This idea became known as microcredit. And the core concept was, honestly, revolutionary. It just threw conventional banking wisdom out the window. Every bank said you needed collateral, assets to get a loan. Yunus flipped that on its head. He argued that the poor were creditworthy, and that their collateral was their social bonds, their community ties, and their own entrepreneurial spirit.
But Yunus figured out pretty quickly that just giving out loans wasn't going to be enough. To really, truly break the cycle of poverty, you had to change the entire social environment, the way people behaved. And this led him to a much, much broader vision.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The Grameen Bank model wasn't just about finance. It was built on a kind of social contract called the 16 Decisions. These were pledges that borrowers made, things like promising to send their kids to school, building sanitary latrines, rejecting the dowry system. So you see, it was never just a bank. It was an engine for social change, using money as a tool to drive that change from the ground up.
His thinking just kept evolving, and that led him to this idea of a social business. This is a total game changer. It's a business designed to make money, so it's self-sustaining, but with a major twist. The investors only ever get their original investment back. That's it. All the profits are just perpetually plowed back into the company to expand its social mission. It's like capitalism with a conscience.
And this quote really sums up his ultimate goal. This isn't just about Bangladesh anymore. The vision here is global. He's aiming for nothing less than a world with 3 zeros. It's an incredibly audacious goal, and that's the philosophy he's bringing with him into this new role as a national leader.
But all this global fame and recognition, it came at a really steep price for him back home. His rise put him on a direct collision course with the political establishment, which led to a decade and a half of just relentless pressure from the state.
The trouble really kicked off in 2007 when he briefly thought about starting a political party. After Sheikh Hasina came to power, she clearly started to see him as a rival, and what followed was a systematic campaign against him. He was forced out of the very bank he founded, publicly accused of treason, and then hit with over 150 legal cases. It all climaxed on New Year's Day 2024, when he was sentenced to jail. To many, it looked like the final move to silence him for good.
And yet, here we are, just 8 months later, he's leading the country. It's just wild. And his new government's entire mission is built around one single ambitious document, the July Charter. It's basically a blueprint designed to make sure the authoritarianism of the past can never, ever come back.
When you look at these political reforms, you can see exactly what they're trying to do. They're attacking the roots of unchecked power. A 2-term limit for the prime minister, that's to prevent another 15-year rule like the one they just had. Creating a new Senate, that adds another layer of checks and balances. And this is a big one, allowing politicians to vote their conscience instead of just following the party line. That's designed to dismantle the old rubber stamp parliament.
The changes to the justice system and human rights are just as revolutionary. And again, they directly target the abuses of the past. Giving the Human Rights Commission the actual power to investigate security forces, that's a massive shift to end a culture of impunity. Criminalizing enforced disappearances, a terrifying tactic used against dissidents, is huge. They're not just making small tweaks here. These are foundational changes designed to create real, lasting accountability.
But look, having a blueprint is one thing. Actually making it happen when your economy is fragile and the geopolitical situation is tense, that's another story completely. Bangladesh is basically walking a tightrope right now on its path to the 2026 elections.
And this really shows you the immense challenge perfectly. On one side of the scale, you have all this pressure. A tense relationship with their powerful neighbor India, punishing export restrictions, a shaky economy at home. But on the other side, you have this incredible promise of the July Charter and the goal of a truly democratic future. The entire country is caught in this precarious balance. And it all comes to a head on one single day, February 12, 2026. This isn't just an election, it's a dual vote. The people won't just choose their new leaders. They will also vote directly on whether to adopt the July Charter as the new constitutional foundation for the country. It's a true moment of truth. Which leaves us with this final critical question. For 50 years, Muhammad Yunus has used his ideas to lift individuals out of poverty, one by one. Now he's trying to apply those same principles of bottom-up empowerment to an entire nation. The whole world is watching to see if this historic, incredible experiment can turn the fire of a revolution into the foundation of a real, enduring democracy.